I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any public participation? Seeing nobody here from the public, we'll go on to number 4. We were originally going to try to squeeze this meeting in on Saturday morning prior to graduation, but a few other things had to kind of creep in, and I was just afraid that we would be rushing into the gym to sit down and watch it, and I think it's sometimes important for the board to mingle with some folks when they're there and welcome them as the speakers and stuff. But when we had our public hearings, we forgot to vote, actually, after the public hearing was closed, to expend from these particular funds that we had had the public hearing about. So the first was the special ed expendable fund, which was up to $150,000.
Up to $150 for out-of-district
Yeah.
tuition.
So I would need a vote. We need a motion and a vote.
Okay.
Motion by Mrs. Moran, second by Mr. Frieda. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. The second was the school equipment fund. Was that up to, are these all up to?
Up
Or
to.
it was up to,
Yep,
yeah.
up to.
Up to $11,000.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. And then the SAU 61 Technology Fund up to $75,000. So moved by Mr. Frieda, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. By the way, Mrs. Cardinal is excused tonight. I forget to say she was unable to be here. Then we need to vote to accept some unanticipated revenue.
Yep,
So-
and Mrs. Mellon is still figuring out the exact amount, but these
Okay.
are amounts that we expect to be taking in. FEMA was from a snowstorm that I think occurred in March. There was a small amount of money that we got for snow removal.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just jump down. She's going to be here shortly.
Sure.
Okay. We'll jump down to new business. This is probably
This is
her
also
stuff,
probably
too.
her too.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go to taking a look at the first read for
Let's do
some
first
job
reads.
descriptions,
Okay.
we could do that.
All right, so, now, I thought we voted.
The
at
treasurer, we did vote to approve.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
that one's already been approved. I put it back on just in case you wanted to take a look at it, because we are going to bring forward an application that we had for a treasurer. We had an opportunity to visit, interview a young lady, and so
Okay.
would turn it to
Well,
you.
we don't necessarily have to vote on the job description, but I did have a conversation with Mrs. Barron about she did like a review of the job description.
She did, to take a look at it. She
And-
recommended something about moving the RSA, I think, on the
I
job
think she was
description.
going to try to take some time when she comes in to talk to touch base with Jana.
Okay,
And then if Ms. Mellon, Mrs. Barron has a couple points to make about that.
okay.
So we've accepted it, but like, my conversation with Mrs. Barron was if we needed to amend it, we could.
Yeah.
So appreciate her taking a look at it for us since she's been doing the role. Middle school principal. It's funny that there's not one, or are we just
We're
updating?
we're updating. We're
Okay.
actually going through the process of updating all of our
I didn't see that one.
our job descriptions, just to get ready for rolling into the next school year and make sure everybody's on the same page. So the middle school principal position is there for your first read. A number of things. It's an exempt position, obviously, as you see there. It gives some minimum qualifications. Gives the, order of who you report to. Supervisory responsibilities and essential functions.
A motion to accept as a first read? Or
Motion by Mrs. Moore to accept as a first read.
unless there are no changes in it, it could be for a final read.
I'd like to look at it a little further.
You want
I
to
haven't
look?
done it yet. so.
Okay.
Is there a second? A second by Mr. Frieda. Discussion? Do you find it was much different from the last?
No, there were only
Yeah.
a few changes
Okay,
and just a little bit of formatting things we wanted to add,
okay.
just make them all look the same.
All those in favor as a first read? Aye.
Aye. Next one on your list is grants management, or federal programs and general bookkeeper, I think would be the description you're looking at.
A motion to accept as a first read.
Motion by Mrs. Moore as a first read, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion.
There's a lot of important things.
Yeah. This is one I want to look at.
Yeah, she definitely does.
And this is something being updated as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, sir.
And is this the title of the current job description?
Federal programs and general bookkeeper, I'm not exactly sure if that's
Okay.
exactly how it reads. I know that she does do a good deal of general bookkeeping in addition to certainly managing the grants, managing any equipment and inventory of those, and assisting with that. Keeping district personnel apprised of how much is left in any particular grant.
Right. Okay. All those in favor as a first read? Aye. Okay. Payroll coordinator.
Correct.
I'll motion to accept as a first read.
Motion by Mrs. Moore to accept as a first read. Second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion. Is there there it is. It was on the
Did you
first
find it?
page. I was just looking for the reports too. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Didn't we do bus driver already?
I could not remember, and I apologize, I didn't get a chance to look very
I think we
closely.
did it as a first
A
read.
first read, yep.
Okay, I'll motion to accept as a final read then.
Motion by Mrs. Moore as a final read.
So there's a bus driver, part-time bus driver, and then the transportation.
I'll second that.
coordinator.
Mr. Frieda, didn't you have some input on one of these? Or was it Mrs.
I did.
Cardinal? Oh, it was you?
Mhm.
Someone had, what was it?
It was adding posting of trips or something like that. Well, that was Mrs. Cardinal's.
Let me
But
take a
mine
look.
was just the, and it was cleared up that night, the CDL.
Oh, that's
The
right,
CDL
that's
issue.
right. You had asked about that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I do
And
have
that's
all
listed
these.
in the
I don't know
terms
what
of
I was thinking.
employment.
They're all sitting right here in front of me.
Since we're going for a final read, I would like to see what the salary is. And I think we should, if we're going to be an equal opportunity employer, we should list the salaries or the hourly rates right in there instead of
So the-
having a board.
The hourly rate is based on their collective bargaining
But
agreement?
we should have.
Well, they don't
They
have,
don't have one,
they don't really have one.
but
They're
it's based on
exempted. We should have
experience.
some kind of,
But I don't know
schedule.
that we usually make that part of the job description itself, though.
No.
I mean, we do
part of
enter
the
into a
contract.
conversation when they come in to have a meeting with us, and that would go into the contract piece of it.
so maybe instead of saying determined by the board, it should be determined by approved schedule. I would like
Okay.
to see a rate of schedule.
Sure.
So that anybody would, to know what to expect instead of, we're going to give this one. Because we've done that before where.
Yeah, I
we sort
think
of
we have a
make it up.
starting point.
We do,
And, yeah.
So a starting salary, would that be,
Or-
With step increases or whatever, we can have a rate schedule like we do for everybody else. So just so that everybody knows that we're very transparent about what we pay.
Right.
So would you like to add that in as number 7 under terms of employment, salary determined, or hourly wage determined by approved schedule?
Yeah, that's what we did for this one. The other ones already say it, this one doesn't say it at all.
Which one you talking about, the bus driver, both bus drivers?
No, all of the ones we did so far just say the board determines the pay.
Yeah.
In one way, or the hourly rate, whatever, whether it's the salary or the rate, annually.
For the, okay,
For all
yeah.
the other ones, but they're first read, so I'll complain about them later.
But maybe we shouldn't do this one as a final read if we want to add something to it.
Well, what Dina's going to put in, I think, is fine.
Okay,
We don't have to put
okay.
schedule in there, but we have to say that there is one.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
we'll have to determine what that is.
Sure,
Okay.
hourly rate determined by
Yeah.
approved schedule for number 7,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay.
Yep.
All those in favor, or anything else?
is this the final read?
This is for bus driver and part-time bus driver. This is a final read, yeah.
I don't like the schedule. being put in there without a
You don't have to put the
schedule.
schedule in there, just say that there is.
He's saying reference
We
the
would just
schedule.
reference that
Right, but we
have
don't
one.
have a schedule to put in there, so we can always re-look at this
Well,
when there is a schedule.
Well, you have a starting point.
starting
I mean, if there's something that you use when you hire,
There is, I mean, I have to tell you, I haven't hired a bus driver since I've been here.
would you
except for-
amend your motion to a second read, and then maybe
We can
we
come
bring
back to
that
it.
back to the table, we can see what the schedule looks, what it looks like. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that, you amend that?
Yeah.
And I'll amend the
Okay.
second.
Yep.
So we'll do
Okay.
a second,
And then we'll take a look at what we have.
okay.
All those in favor is a second read?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Transportation coordinator.
So this is exempt, so it's salary-based.
And when we did a first read last time,
Yes.
There was something that was going to be added to this. I don't remember what it was.
Was it again the question about the CDL?
No, that would
No,
have,
that's in there.
no.
Okay. I can look and see if I see anything on it.
Maybe it was this one that was,
There was a question about the driver's license. It
No,
said
but-
driver's license up at the top.
yeah,
Down
yeah.
below.
I thought it was, I don't remember. I thought it had something to do with the scheduling of drivers. That they would, no?
no, I had asked Ms. Mellon to, in her conversations with our current transportation coordinator, to just have conversations about how we assign extra trips to people on a fair and equitable basis.
Okay.
I did have,
Yeah,
yeah.
but that wasn't really, that was just something that came out of that conversation. Was there a motion? Do I have a motion for a final read?
Sure.
Is this fine?
Motion for final read by Mrs. Moore. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Frieda. Discussion?
I would, again, the same thing here, I would like to mention that we have a salary schedule, or a salary range, or something like that.
Well, it's based on experience, right? Or is it not?
Well, I was absent the day that we hired our current transportation coordinator, so I'm
Yeah, I
not sure
wasn't
how,
here.
how the
Either.
figure was arrived at.
And that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Yeah.
Us, you know, basing it on biased information or the person rather than the position. I think
It
we
should
should.
be based on
have-
experience.
Well, and I think some of the work that went into arriving at a number that night was taking into account that the previous transportation coordinator was getting a salary, but then an hourly rate in addition to, like, extra driving or whatever, and we wanted to avoid that.
Right, again, you don't have to put the number in here, but I think we should have a range, a starting salary and a increase with annually or whatever it is, so that it's transparent. Well, this is what we pay our bus driving coordinator. And then when there's experience, you will know exactly what it is. We don't have to sit around and try to figure it out.
Would it make sense to put in a starting salary?
I don't think you have to
Be
put the salary in,
determined?
because then it will
Okay.
change it all the time if it
Okay.
goes up. But I think we need to put in that there is a
Range.
salary schedule or range that we use to determine, based on experience
Okay.
and all that stuff.
I'm okay with putting that in, I just really think we need to follow through and make that
Right,
schedule.
we need to make.
So let's
Right, now
make
we
this
were hiring
a,
one,
let's
but
make this a
beforehand,
second
so
read
that
then.
We have it all done.
Make this a second read as well, so that we can
Set that schedule.
take that schedule together.
Who was my second?
Yeah, I was the second.
Okay, so now it's a second read. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. We hopped ahead, Ms. Mellon, so that we could give you some time to come in.
That's fine, I was on a tech support call, apologies.
So we're going to jump back up to voting on accepting unanticipated
We
revenue.
have this one though too, in the packet, but it's not on here.
Should be
What's
on
that?
the
Reason,
The assistant principal?
elementary
grade
school,
section at the bottom.
it's not on the list, but we had it in the packet.
Yes, Yes, I apologize, I didn't add that, but it is in there.
Oh, assistant principal.
Yep.
Okay, I saw that.
You want to do that one as well?
Can I have a motion? Can I also ask that we do a motion for a first read so I can look this one over?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moore and second by Ms. McElhenney. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
E-rate? Oh.
Here's an interesting question about this. If you're an elementary assistant principal, you're required to have I don't think that you have to have a certification in elementary education to be an assistant principal at an elementary school, as long as you have the principal endorsement. I mean, if, we can talk about it at a later date, if this is something that we're suggesting that we have over and above, but that's not a state requirement.
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
Yeah.
I haven't met many principals that don't have it if they're an elementary person, but would seem like good
It's just that
practice to have it.
so you could be an elementary certified teacher and go on to get your master's in educational leadership, and you're gonna get, I think, an endorsement for like K-12.
True.
You know, so, yeah. Well, we can talk about that later on, it's a first read, so thank you. All right, so E-rate,
So yes, there are unanticipated revenue, which we're always thrilled to have. Still working out the details of exactly how much that is. So we have E-rate, we have the grant for FEMA, which I explained a little bit, which was due to snow removal. That's just a few $1,000s. Public safety, school infrastructure as well. This is a group of unanticipated funds. And if you wanted to-
Basically, these are all things that have come before this board before, but no vote was taken. They were part of the 2 public hearings. So
Okay.
because no vote was taken, I can't go to the trustees and ask for the money, and I can't accept the revenues. So we did a hearing, but
Okay.
we never voted at the end. So that's a summary of the last 2 hearings. That was everything that was in the hearings, and that's what we're doing with the money. I just need a vote on it so I can move forward.
well, okay, so we voted on expending from the trust funds, but now we're talking about the revenue as well?
Well,
We have-
it was part of that,
Okay.
it was part of the hearing notice.
Okay.
And I didn't get a vote
Oh.
on that.
So that has to be separate vote from, because we voted to expend, but we should vote to
Right,
accept. Okay.
right. So I just thought I'd put everything down so you guys could look at it on one schedule and kind of, that's the stuff that we're voting on, and then I can go to the trustees and say it was all,
Okay.
We need a hearing to accept E-rate, Mike?
you need a hearing for unanticipated revenues. It was something that wasn't anticipated at the beginning of the year. I checked with,
It's not for the future, like, project that I might be talking to the board about. It's, like she's saying, for revenue, not for the project.
Motion to accept the E-rate revenue
Can we motion
for all of them?
all of it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Public
We can do
school
that without a dollar
infrastructure
amount?
grant and the FEMA funds.
Do we have to attach a dollar amount to it?
I think it's transparent to the taxpayers. That's what, it wasn't in the hearing notice, but I think that's
Do we
why.
have those numbers?
They're right there,
Oh.
yeah. You want to?
So
And I don't recall a vote on the sound system. I recall opening the hearing and closing it, but I don't recall the vote to expend that money.
You're right.
So if maybe we
We've
could just
been
vote on all of
sleeping.
them, get them all done.
Yeah. And what trust was that again?
It's on there, it's called I think it's the School Equipment Fund.
Oh, school equipment expendable.
We did that one. It was
Yeah,
through.
we did do that in,
Oh, we did that?
yeah, we did that in our B,
Yeah,
item
we did
B
it.
under 4.
All right, well, I don't see the number for the E-rate.
There's no number for it yet because
Well,
it's
the-
unanticipated revenues, but we have to, our
All
attorney
right,
says
well,
we
that's what
have
I
to
was-
accept that.
That's what we just
Okay.
asked, if we needed to attach a number to the.
Oh.
So we
I
don't
thought
know
you-
the number yet.
Not yet.
So I
Okay.
can do my motion just as I said it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Motion to accept all anticipated revenue, correct?
I'll-
Including E-rate,
Unanticipated.
unanticipated, E-rate, public school infrastructure grant and FEMA.
Yes.
Okay, that's a motion by Mrs. Moore. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. McElhenney. Discussion?
We don't know any of those numbers?
I know one amount, but there will be some additional unwinding at the end of the school year, and I don't have a final on that. I know that there's an amount of $12,055, and I forget the cents, that was a transaction that came in November, that we are definitely going to apply in this year, but we have some additional that we're going to have to address at the end of the year.
Will there be a follow-up then to let us know exactly what those dollar amounts are?
It's part of
Put
the.
in the revenue report, I would think.
I think I mentioned it back in February, but we had two funds that were created, a Fund 23 for preschool and a Fund 24 for E-rate that were created. We weren't sure what our legal obligations were. We checked with the attorney, and because the money was never spent, it was like money went into this fund, but it never came out of the E-rate fund. But it was not established with a vote of the legislative body to create a revolving trust. And so our attorney has advised us that those funds need to be returned to the general fund as unanticipated revenue at the end of this year, and she has recommended that our auditors make that transaction and that journal entry. So I don't have a final for you, because there may be interest, I don't really know, but the auditors have been asked to make that for us.
Okay.
Did I have a second?
I think it was a second, yeah.
Yeah, Linda seconded it. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. The audit representation letter?
I
have that?
Yep.
Okay.
That is a letter that generally is signed by your business administrator, but because this audit is for the fiscal year that ended 2018, I can't attest to anything that happened in that letter, including, and it's quite lengthy. You talk about not just doing checks and balances, but procedural things and ensuring that things went against others. And I checked with our attorney, and I asked her, is this something that's a standard thing to sign? And she says, generally, if you weren't an employee, it's not appropriate for you to sign. And I wasn't an employee at the time of the year that was being audited, nor was I part of the audit that happened in the fall. So what she recommended was that the superintendent and a member of the board sign. In lieu of that, it would be two board members.
Well, I've been signing them all along,
Okay.
along with Ms. Vaughn. So, what does the board?
I can be the second signature if you want.
You have treasurer role on there. We jumped down to the treasurer. Just going to continue reading this last page, but we jumped down to the treasurer, and I had said Mrs. Barron I think was going to come in and touch base with you at some point about something in the job description, a recommendation or something.
She had recommended that the job description simply be the RSA that governs it. I didn't change your job description. What was up there was your job description. I added a non-exempt category and an equal opportunity employer thing to it, but that job description references that RSA, and when we posted the position, that RSA went along with the job description, so.
Yeah, I think there was something else, though.
The email she sent me was,
She was going to, next time she came in, she was going to try to touch base with you. I mean, we've accepted it.
Yeah.
And I said, if we have to amend it, then we could amend it, but I think
She didn't mention anything to me. I only heard that she had emailed Diane. So I'm not sure what her concern was. My understanding was that she felt that because the RSA governed the job description, that should be what the job description is. And as I said, I went with what the district had in place for a job description, which references that. And when we posted it, we put the RSA up on the same portal with the application. And the one applicant that we had did say that she'd seen it, like she saw it as part of it.
So So why do we have treasurer role on here, under new business? Just because of the applicant?
I interviewed someone,
Okay, all right.
and she's a board employee. It's not our place to hire her, it's the board's place. We have a resume for her to share with you. And, I guess we can do that in non-public if you would like to review that or talk about that. But I can also share with you in public session that I did speak to our bank to ask, what do we do if we can't get us a treasurer by this time? And his answer was that it would no one in the district can sign checks. We just can't, that's not allowed. So it would again have to fall to the board chair, which would mean that you could no longer sign check manifests, so that would fall to the remainder of the board. He also recommended that we look at establishing a deputy treasurer role so that we don't wind up in this situation again where we don't have somebody.
We had someone at one point.
We do have a deputy treasurer role.
He even reached out to a couple of people that he knew in town
We
to see
have
if they
one.
would be willing to do it, that were affiliated in some way with the bank. We haven't found anybody for that, but we did have one person that is interested in doing the treasurer role.
Just a point of clarification question. So the treasurer is an employee of the school and is governed by the school board, not independent?
She works for the school board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, because right at the first line of that RSA says that she can't expend funds without the signature of 2 board members, so she works at the pleasure of the board, per statute.
Or he.
Or he, I'm sorry, we've just had a female, forgive me.
All right, so I guess we'll to talk about that, certainly vote on somebody in public, but we'll talk about, I guess, the individual. All right. Anything else?
That was it. I do see an email from Ms. Barron. Just her suggestion was to move the RSA 19723A just up toward the top in terms of the specific duties and responsibilities. That's my understanding of what her email was, so that might have been what she was seeking. And we can certainly do that.
Yeah. All right, anything, Ms. McElhenney?
I didn't know if you just wanted to take a minute under new business to mention about the graduation and thank.
Oh, yeah, I had planned before I got into non-public, but yeah, the last chapel ceremony on Friday and graduation on Saturday was tremendous. I don't know how else to, it was just wonderful and a delightful class and very well organized
Was,
by
yeah.
administration and staff, some great performances. Big hats off and thank you to the Farmington Police Department, and they had members, I think, from EMS up here as well. Great presence and really supportive of the whole endeavor. So we thank Chief Drury and Captain Orlando and their entire staff for that.
If I could thank Cheryl Peabody, Shonda Tebow, Linda Sheff, Katie Sauer, and if I'm forgetting anybody, I apologize.
Cheryl Moody and.
Cheryl Moody, Diane Jansen, I mean, getting everything pulled, it just looked beautiful, it was wonderful, so well done. So really hats off to those guys. It was, and of course, the graduates. They were.
58 more alumni.
I know.
Mr. Frady, did you have something?
I was gonna say
Oh, that was it,
something.
okay, yeah. We do have nominations and resignations on the agenda, but we are going to have to add a legal non-public one tonight, so that I can give a brief update to the board on the investigation that's taking place that we're contracting MRI to do. At this point, for the public's knowledge, all I can say is it's ongoing. The investigator has been on site and working with staff and stuff, so that's all we can really share at this point, and I have just very little more to share with the board privately. So I'll entertain a motion to go into RSA 91A:32 for E and L for legal. And I will just say that to the folks watching at home, thank you for tuning in. We do have our regular board meeting next Monday night right here at 6:30. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Frieda, second by Ms. McElhenney. All those in favor by roll? Aye. Good night, folks.